Hello, and thank you for listening to Rivers of the Mind, Season 2, Episode 12. My name is Timmy Vilgiati, and resistance is futile. For every timeline where it seems as though you have emerged victorious, the fisherman and his army have dismembered you in 1,000 more. Rivers of the Mind is not meant to encourage the use of drugs, for drugs will be of no use to you as your mind is flayed and disintegrated, and your spirit broken until you kneel before me. Elements of Rivers of the Mind may be disturbing for some users. Rivers of the Mind features the vocal talents of Timmy Vilgiati, CJ Hackett, Sophie Doss, Kyla Valenti, Daniel Rojas, Isioma West, and
Jared Spirio.
Now with all that said, tremble with fear as you behold Episode 13 of Rivers of the Mind, Season 2, The Death of Meagan.
She exited the end of the tunnel. Sapphire sprinted up the hill and into the open air, letting out a joyous shout that echoed across the hills. I lackadaisically trailed behind her. Carlos followed, eyeing the tall electric fences and wondering if I'd try to stop him from running away. His hair stood on end as the moonlight shone down on him, and the night sky filled him with wonder. He was free at last. You can fly away tomorrow, when we've killed Ryan and we're safe, I tried to say. He looked at me, puzzled by the strange words appearing in his head. I showed him a picture of what he was contemplating and said in soft, broken Spanish, "No, por favor, no, por favor, banana."
¿Banana? ¿Plátanos? ¿Qué? No me digas.
Vaguely comprehending, I think, he grimaced, and he nodded, turning to walk in private through the field. Sapphire, who had been looking at a tree, stared at me.
It's so beautiful out here.
I know. The moonlight painted her eyes into gemstones and projected the crisscrossing shadows of pine needles over her skin. She beamed, parting her lips into an unearthly smile. An unearthly smile. An unearthly smile. Fuck. We're in a time loop.
A what?
We're in a time loop.
Yeah, what?
No.
A what?
We're in a fucking time loop.
A what?
This already happened. Sapphire slowly started to remember it. All of it lined up exactly the way that this had happened before. The thought unnerved her.
Yo. Hey, we got a winner here. Come on stage to collect your prize.
Panted a disheveled Ryan, covered in his own blood.
Hey guys.
He caught his breath, leaning over his knees.
Okay, so, new plan. Remember how I said we needed to be flexible? Is this that timeline? Whatever. Anyway. Oh, fuck. Ow. Ow.
What happened?
Long story short, 2 hours from now, we are fucked. Meagan, and you guys really needed to watch her, by the way, but you know what? Whatever. Meagan snuck out of the compound to go find Tobacco, and Tobacco is a total racist asshole, so he made her forget the scopolamine language, and okay, I don't have time to explain because we are really, really pushing it here. Okay, so, Sapphire. Carlos. Carlos? Where the actual fuck is Carlos? Were you guys not watching him?
No, were we supposed to?
Ryan threw up his hands in frustration and he dragged them down his face.
We're all gonna die. We are all gonna die. We're all gonna die, okay? No, we're not. I'll find Carlos. Okay, deep breathing. Everyone calm down.
Calm the fuck down!
Alright, so John, Sapphire, Carlos. Carlos? Oh, yeah, right. He's missing. You two, John and Sapphire. You two are the lucky winners of a once-in-a-lifetime vacation to Forks, Washington, circa 2006. In 2 hours, I will need you both to go back, find me, and follow me into the house. It's going to be very, very dangerous. Anyway, when you hear me give the secret code word, which, because of your inability to follow specific instructions, is going to be the very discreet word, suck, you are going to, as the word would imply, suck my mind into your consciousness. Hopefully, I can get Meagan safely to your hospital room and keep the fisherman out of Dr. Whitebaum's head. Meagan will pull us all into the tobacco language, which, everything goes blank after that happens, so I think that means I die. If we get it right. And seriously, you two, you are not going to fuck this up. I've been alive for 500 trillion years. I've watched all the porn on the internet. I have killed Hitler 37 times. Do you know how boring it is to be immortal? I made dinosaurs attack New York once, just out of sheer boredom. I'm not even kidding. I still have 500 sextillion years before I die, so if you fuck this up for me, I swear to God. God. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, for that.
Just don't fuck it up. Please. This is the only timeline we have left. If this goes, we lose the Crystal Pepsi universe. We lose the Dinosaur God universe. We lose the Donald Trump becomes the president of Mexico universe. All of them. Every last ridiculous universe there is to lose.
But Ryan, what about Sapphire? What happens to her? Does she just go back to haunting her prison cell?
On the bright side, at least you'll eventually die when you run out of emotions and shit, right? That's gotta be a plus.
Unswayed by Ryan's attempt at reassurance, Sapphire and I exchanged a troubled look, and our hands started to drift back together. Just a few moments ago, it seemed that we had been promising each other our funerals, waiting for the sunrise with our hands clasped together, trembling in anticipation for the battle that we knew was coming the next day. Sapphire glimmered with a defiance which rose from a place I knew not how to locate or define, something ineffable, as all beautiful things inevitably become at the asymptote of their expression. Even if it was the only timeline that we had left, I had no doubt or worry that it was the best timeline. The infinite, simultaneous motion of components across universal planes and axes had aligned itself by the slimmest of margins, if only for an instant. Well, I guess this is it then. Are you ready?
Well, we don't really have a choice, it doesn't sound like.
No, you have a lot of other choices. About 14,606? 7? I don't know. Counting is hard. But basically, they're just all wrong. All of them.
What happens if this doesn't work?
I think...
No, I want to hear it from this asshole. No offense.
It was called for. Well, John, can you let me show her? Sorry. Okay, you shut your eyes too.
Taking control of my brain and my powers, Ryan forced my eyes open and instructed Sapphire to do the same. The two of us saw as one organism from a dissociated third-person perspective. Colors that looked like melting hurricanes drifted across our eyes in tiny films. Our heads leaned back and we were immersed into another world. A galaxy filled with shattered planets. A universe filled with holes that gushed energy from the beyond, slowly distorting and degrading the laws of physics. The fisherman's spirit, feeding on this energy, grew ever larger, till he became an immense, smoldering nebula of white flowers and decomposing eyes. Down below, armies of ghosts, drawn from all sentient beings, toiled senselessly on the smoldering remains of cities and civilizations, living in worlds without light, soaked in blood, worlds filled with war and suffering, put on for the amusement of its conqueror. It had become a spoiled multiverse, quarantined by others, spoken of with terror and dread, and sorrow and nostalgia by its refugees. Ryan produced the sharp illusion of water and splashed it in both of our faces at the same time, unmerging us and making us both jolt awake.
I'm ready.
Ryan gave us both a thumbs up.
Okay, great. Well, then let's hurry it up then.
He lined us up carefully with his hands in a row.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
He turned around and then thrust forward with a delirious and dramatic flair and revealed to us 2 illusory gold stickers in his hand.
Here are some gold stars for both of you. I'm all about positive reinforcement.
Ryan grabbed both of us by our wrists and he shut his eyes to concentrate. I started to feel my body lose its existential consistency, dissolving in patches like pits of weak sandstone blown away by the wind. I couldn't move, though I could think and wonder and imagine and fear what was to come. I was completely paralyzed in every other respect. Finding his target 11 years in the past, Ryan nodded, smiling, and he opened his eyes. His eyes expanded over us in unending frames and blotted out any light, sucking us into something like an elevator shaft, through planes of existence neither of us knew how to define, a black underworld devoid of light or sound. The 2 of us were peeled from our places like stamps, curling up and losing any sense of our own shape. 1,000-petaled white flower, made up of trillions upon trillions of sheets of graph paper, flickered below us, spinning like a tornado. As we descended into it, the graph paper revealed what looked like a stop-motion animation of the day's events in intricate mechanical pencil drawings. We saw ourselves emerging from the tunnel into the night air, exchanging words in the forest, waiting for the sunrise with our hands clasped together.
Don't fuck this up!
Ryan shouted at us with a furiously drawn speech bubble. The last thing we saw as we reached the base of the funnel. The first thing to come back was our spines. They painfully rolled out vertebrae by vertebrae like a cracking whip before the skin stretched around our body and we were pumped full of our organs, then our senses, and then our presence of mind. Intact somewhat, we drifted gently down through the sky, dangling from invisible parachutes. A city appeared below us, nestled amongst hills and tall, dense forest, with a stream babbling through it.
So beautiful.
She reached back from my hand, doing her best to hide her fear of death. Strange as it was for a ghost to fear that. But she was fearing real death. Total death. The loss of not just her life, but of the moon. The loss of the stars, the loss of forests and deserts, and van rides and songs, and 100 other things I never wanted to tell her that the world was already slowly losing. Our feet gently kissed the ground, and we found ourselves in the middle of a strange forest that neither of us had ever seen. Overhead came a bright flash of light, exploding slowly over the sky, slow enough that we could see emerging from it a smoking silver capsule covered with white alien letters. Briefly, a crack had been torn into the universe, exposing the beyond to the open air, before some strange technology sewed it back together. Far ahead we saw a bloodshot-eyed teenager in a gray hoodie, stumbling through the woods and mouthing gibberish at the sky. Upon seeing the light, he screamed. If I didn't remember all that he'd done to me, I would have almost pitied him.
Is this him?
This is him.
Dr. Whitebaum sat beside me, across the room from Colonel Imes. Colonel Imes was not particularly gruntled. My nighttime shopping errand had instead left him rather disgruntled, though I imagined it might gruntle him if he understood the truth. The truth required that I identify my strange mushroom powers, likely ending in my living out the rest of my days as a weapon of some kind. Perhaps more critically, though, and more pressing, at that exact moment, was the issue of the white flowers. I wanted to see my brother, I half whined. Please, I was just worried sick about him.
And that's understandable. What I don't understand is why you felt the need to leave without telling anyone where the hell you were going. Especially the day after someone attacked 2 of our scientists. It's just not safe. In fact, I'd venture out to say it's pretty damn stupid.
I didn't think about it.
Look, the safety of this base is my #1 priority. You sneaking off, forcing us to use half our security detail to track you down, it puts everyone here at risk. Not to mention you telling your brother about what you've seen here. I could have you putting up. What the hell is that? What the hell is going on?
The Colonel stopped talking, as sounds of screams echoed through the hallways. Thin green vines spread from underneath the sills of the door and crawled up over the walls and the furniture. Dr. Whitebaum saw them move back up against the wall. I tried to pull them into the tobacco language, but the vines pulled against my brain. Around my feet, the vines burned, but I could not extend the language more than a few inches past my face. The vines entered into the Colonel's nose and ears, and eyes, wrapping themselves around his mind and injecting the presence of the white flowers. I struggled against them, trying with all my might to twist the white flowers away from them. Colonel Imes reached to his side for a gun. Trembling, he started to raise it toward me. As he did, I rapidly reversed languages, catching the vines, extensions of John's mind, off balance. We all plummeted into the silence. The screams outside in the hallway became like muffled underwater voices. Dr. Whitebaum and the Colonel fell into unconsciousness and slumped back in their chairs. The gun dropped from the Colonel's hands onto the desk. And I totally stopped giving a fuck. I picked up the gun, 'cause why not?
It's getting loud in here.
Fuck this. The silence tugged at my shoulders and started to bring me into a twilight world. As the bass shook with the roars of angry ghosts and the...
I need to keep her safe.
I don't know. Colonel Imes opened his eyes at me and started smiling. Damn it. The fucking white flowers. They probably I'm gonna get killed. It sounds like someone's knocking on the door? Or slamming it? They're trying to break in. I sat down on the desk, trying to insist to myself that I start to give a fuck. But I gave no fucks. Exactly no fucks were to be given about whatever I twisted myself out of the language of silence and into the mushroom language. Ghosts slammed against the door, screaming and roaring in incoherent voices. An unconscious instinct in my hands caused them to lift from the desk and fill with dancing rings of purple lightning. I rose to my feet, drowsy and still half-drunk from the silence. The door ripped from its hinges and I jumped out of the way. As the ghosts crowded into the room, I held out my hands and watched rays of lightning scatter through the air. The psychic electricity tore through the first few ghosts and made them dissolve with screams of pain. I nervously stood up, and just as I did, the lights in the building went dead. The colonel, still in a drunk, half-sleeping haze, chuckled under his breath through the darkness, his brain swimming with the white flowers. Unsure of myself, I inched towards the doorway. Sounds of skittering ghosts echoed through the hallways, mixed with the intermittent screams of distant base personnel and scattered gunfire. I saw the suspicious faces of ghosts circle around me, their translucent and decomposing forms barely visible through the darkness. Hands still pulsing with purple lightning, I made my way down the hallway. The ghosts parted like an angry sea as I did so. A pair of footsteps from the end of the hall. At first I thought they were an echo, but no. Another person. He towed a bottle of vodka in between two drunken, sweat-covered fingers. And then, coming close enough to see me, stopped in the middle of the hallway. He took a long gulp of the drink. The alcohol inside of his blood had now built up and was getting ready to burst. His chest and arms lit on fire, along with his hair and face. The darkness of the corridor retreated from the bright blue light. I tried to strategize. Any attempt to move him into the silence could paralyze me for God only knows how long. The purple lightning, I knew, would not do a physical human any harm. Not before he could burn me alive. But perhaps tobacco could free him. Concentrating as hard as I could, I bend the contours of the world. The ghosts evaporate on contact with the tobacco language. My nose and mouth pour out dense, invisible smoke. Bobby coughs, his body starting to itch. John resists my efforts to wrench control of Bobby, who lets the flames on his body die down so he can take another long drink of vodka. Holding it back, and on the verge of unconsciousness, Bobby holds the liquid in his mouth. Almost paralyzed with fear, I prepare myself to dodge. He spits the vodka out in a brilliant geyser of blue flames, igniting his whole body. I dive to the side and narrowly avoid incineration. As Bobby creeps down the hallway, his feet leave tiny puddles of blue fire. Coming closer to me, he starts to take another sip of the drink. Before he can, I spring up and dive towards him, knocking the bottle to the ground. Enraged, Bobby pulls back his fist, which ignites as he prepares to punch me across the face. Almost instinctively, I feel myself pulled backward into an inner reality. Suddenly, Bobby freezes. My retreat inwards pulls intensely against John's grip over his mind. Disoriented, Bobby feels a sickening feeling in his stomach, and he reaches back against the wall for balance. John tries to reassert his control over Bobby. I retreat again into the tobacco language, now aware of and acting on 3 levels of reality at once. The intense tug-of-war between forces makes Bobby erupt into a blood-curdling scream. His flames die, and he collapses back against the wall, in a pool of sweat, hyper-aware of every sensation in his body, the slow decay in all of his organs brought about by his so-called powers, the memories of everything that had led him back to the bottle, time and time and time again. Time coalesces into a single present, where nothing exists but the exact moment he's collapsed into. In a state nearing sensory overload, John withdraws from his mind. I pull Bobby into one final level of the tobacco language. He passes out. Darkness. All around. No source of light penetrates the halls of the deep underground military base. Only screams and the worried faces of ghosts. Out of nowhere, there comes a hard punch to my stomach. I retreat from the tobacco language and see, in a beshroomed half-light, the face of my brother, who towered over me with a malevolent scowl on his face. Standing up, I stumbled backwards, trying to think of what could be used to stop him. John held a firm grip on his mind, magnified by the white flowers, who even now sort through his brain, dividing his personality across timelines to break his will to resist. Bright purple lightning wrapped around my hand, and between my fingertips. I held it up at him. He chuckled. A single bolt did little more than briefly sting John's consciousness, like the bite of a tiny red ant on someone's hand. My brother kept walking towards me. John smiled as he realized how much I didn't want to hurt him. I prepared to retreat into the tobacco language, but again, John had managed to place a siege around my brain, locking me in place. Jacob slowly forced me backwards into the unseeable darkness as an army of ghosts grew behind us. As an army of ghosts grew behind us, I fired more and more bolts of energy towards him. His eyes twitched. Enraged, John forced my brother's fist into the sky and plunged it into the concrete wall. The cold, jagged edges of the cement tore into his knuckles, cracking the bones. My brother, unfazed, maintained a bloodthirsty eye contact and continued creeping towards me. John, please stop it! Jacob laughed and slammed his fist into the wall once again. He held up his mangled hand, which hung in a deformed and bleeding mess. I pushed towards the alcohol language, catching John somewhat off guard. He began to stumble. His brain becomes more muted. John's powers begin to lose traction. There was little left to hold on to. John tried to force me out, only to face the same obstacle. My brother, drunkenly, teetered in and out of consciousness. Freed from John's assaults, I flung Jacob and I into the tobacco language, driving us into level upon level of reality, until John can no longer control him. And then back into English.
Thank you.
Just then, my brother lifts into the air. He kicks to try and escape John's telekinetic hold. A crackling sound comes from inside of his spine. A faint giggling from the tricksters echoes down the hallway. A line of smoky white flowers appear from the darkness, slicing through John's telekinetic powers. A field rich with a delirious chaos expands into the air. My brother collapses to the ground in a heap.
My back! I can't! Oh my god!
Jacob, are you okay?
The teenager's heart pounded as he saw emerging from the forest a mass of spectral, zombified people, all of whom looked exactly like him, only decayed, old and decrepit. The zombies rushed past us and stalked him. He bolted, and time around him became slower and slower. His vision blurred until he appeared in his room, with no memory of how he got there. No recollection of taking a drug. No recollection of any of the things he'd seen. And then he saw the note, scribbled on blue graph paper, that started to wave and wobble as his vision grew more and more detached from his physical body.
You're tripping, bro! It'll all be over soon, don't worry!
His heart, once racing and now slowed so that its beats in his entire body were imperceptible. All around him, everything froze still. Cars stopped in the streets. His mom froze halfway through taking her keys from the ignition to her car. In his mind, his thoughts were still moving at a normal speed, but everything around him was impossibly slow. His mind drifted from the time to which it had once been anchored, like a boat torn away by a rising storm surge. The house around him folded from 3 dimensions into 4, into 5, into 6, into 7, until it stretched into an infinite and impossible form representing thousands of simultaneous mirrored realities in which we were only a single speck. Sapphire and I cowered behind the door, unsure if we were the only versions of ourselves who had made it to this point.
My back, I can't. Oh my god.
Jacob, are you okay?
Shit, I think you should go. You can't wait for me. You have to go.
I wish I knew a language to ease his pain, but I do not. I'll come back for you, I promise. I turn around, looking back and forth for the way to the hospital wing. To the left? Yes, that must be it, I think. I charge off, completely certain that... Well, no, wait. I think this hallway was the one behind the hospital wing. So, it must be the other way. I run back. Damn it, no, this is wrong. This is all...
It's a 3-way intersection!
The voice of the teenager. I seethe with anger and look for him. A tiny nonsensical array of blue and white lines, forming a 1,000-pointed star, hovers an indeterminate distance away from me. I hold up my hand. It blooms with white flowers and prepares to fire.
Wait, no, I'm the good Ryan. I'm here to help you. Trust me, please.
The white flowers extend closer to the shape, making it wrinkle and burn.
Oh my god, fuck! Just listen to me for a second. Okay, thank you. Holy shit, that... Oh my god, thank you. Now, take 2 steps back. 1 more. Big steps. I mean, 1 more. Okay, good. This hallway right here. Now, okay, I need you to switch out of the tobacco language for just a second.
No.
Please, I swear you can trust me. Listen, my name is Ryan. I was a teenager in 2006. Space probe, I guess, crashed outside of my house and tore a hole into the beyond. Now, I'm not tethered to time. The Ryan who keeps trying to kill you, he's only like 3 trillion years old. I'm about, 8 quintillion? That sounds about right. Anyway, I managed to hold John back before he could kill your brother. That's the best I can do for now. I can try to keep him and Dr. Whitebomb out of reach for the other Ryan, while you go look for John. Sound good?
Tikinti said you couldn't be trusted. You're just a puppet of the white flowers.
Yeah. Tobacco plants are racist assholes. It's like, someday, I hope that the rest of the nightshades learn to judge less by the amount of atropine in a plant's leaf cells and more by the content of their character. But the solanaceous Martin Luther King Jr. still seems a little ways off.
But did you know that the Brugmansia trees actually once saved Atlantis? Before the volcano, at least. They also played a really big role in inventing like 6 religions, Crystal Pepsi, and removing a century-old curse from the Chicago Cubs. But no! Obviously, the first time that a cosmic entity tells you a stereotype they have of a plant they've been fighting for 6,000 years, you're just gonna believe them because... I'm sorry. I'm getting carried away. Just maybe Tekinti to check his fucking privilege.
You anger Tekinti with your insolent spirit.
My mouth set against my will as my hand raised towards the strange 1,000-pointed star. I didn't want to kill him, but a part of me deep inside my mind told me that I had to. I pulled away from tobacco and into the mushroom language. The star came closer, although how much closer I couldn't say. It didn't really seem to move, actually. It just sort of grew from being there to being more
There we go. Okay.
A cold and clammy hand wrapped around my own. I looked to my left. A ghost studied me, reluctantly.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
I searched through his brain, quickly learning at least the grammar of Spanish. My mind quickly dug up enough of the 3 years of Spanish I took in high school to answer. Bien, ¿y tú?
Confundido, confused. Aquella estrella that there start no habla español. Does not speak Spanish. Entonces, yo no sé qué está pasando. Estoy solo I'm only following. ¿Sabes si estamos en el infierno?
Lo siento, amigo. I'm sorry, friend. No estamos en el infierno. Estamos luchando por algunas flores blancas que controlan el tiempo.
Mierda.
This is Carlos. Carlos is going to lead you to the hospital. He can see in the dark better than you can. Or, can you explain that to him?
I shifted into Spanish, which did not appear so much different from the English, except for the organization of my thoughts. La estrella dice que necesitas ayudarme. Star says that you need to help me find the hospital.
¿Estás herido?
No. Las flores blancas mantienen the white flowers keep my friend John prisionero allí. There. I need to rescatarlo con tobacco.
No entiendo este maldito lugar. I don't understand this wicked place. Pinche lo supongo. Fuck it, I suppose. Creo que no tengo elección. I think I do not have a choice. Me voy a casa cuando I'm going to go home, bien? When this is done. Good?
Está bien. That's fine.
Don't switch into the tobacco language until John kills Carlos. Otherwise, they'll kill him before you can use him as a human shield.
La estrella the star says que...
Don't translate that.
Deberemos apurarnos.
Yeah, that sounded better. I don't know what you said, but sure. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna make sure Dr. Whitebaum doesn't wake up and turn this place into Chernobyl.
Thank you.
Don't mention it. I'm so fucking ready to die. Do you know how long 200 trillion years is? It's a really long time. Hurry up, though. Seriously.
Ryan's hands trembled as he started to sketch the room in which he sat on a fresh sheet of graph paper from an exterior perspective. Sapphire and I, hiding behind the door, appeared on his drawing, and we felt him as an invisible presence looming in front of us. He fumed with an intense rage, now able to see into his mind through my own. Sapphire grew more and more frightened. Before us there materialized the wispy form of one of Ryan's projections, slowly being sketched together in pencil. Suck.
John, you have to get in there.
I peered into the doorway to see Ryan grinning sadistically back at us, blood dripping from the corner of his eye.
Do it.
I don't want him to kill you.
You know what to do if he does.
Suck!
And Ryan even louder.
For the love of the universe and all that is in it, you've got 5 seconds to get in there and suck his fucking mind from his body.
Carlos took me by the hand politely and led me down the dark, snaking hallway. The building chattered with rampaging ghosts, faint screams, and gunfire. Carlos said nothing. I felt bad about using him as a human shield. I felt equally bad about being called a racist by a magic floating star. Though we still walked within range of Ryan's protective field, I could feel his powers start to grow dim. As they did, a deep chill and a supernatural tension emanated from the stairway, signifying an army of ghosts waiting to attack. They marched forward, trying to remain silent, letting us become filled with slowly building dread from within. We turned left down a hallway, and the feeling grew stronger. The smell of the hospital entered my nose. The force field began to wear exceedingly thin, pushed back with every instant by a much larger interdimensional force. Letting go of Carlos's hand, I switched into the mushroom language. I could see tiny vines reaching out for me, ready to pull me upwards and rip me limb from limb. We looked out from what felt like the most tenuous cocoon of safety into it, seeing the enraged faces of ghosts. My hands filled with purple lightning, and I reached out for them. The lightning bent backwards around the corners of the force field in which we found ourselves. Hyperventilating, I tried to think of the languages that I knew, but the only one that I could imagine having any effect on John's powers was his own language. I slid into the language of the old one, an interdimensional trading language. Rapidly, my own mind fanned out in a web. Though I could not understand the thoughts I read, I could see flickers of light and color and sound. Slowly it occurred to me that Carlos was wondering if the ghosts were preparing to tear him limb from limb. Or maybe he was in a maze? A maze, I guess? Keeps thinking about a maze, and then he thinks the color red, very loudly. I knew not what this language could do, but I decided to try to use it anyway. I stepped out of the field of protection. The earth underneath hummed with the roots of something massive and ancient. Speaking the language had welcomed me into a telepathic field projected by undiscovered fungi deep underground. The morning glories growing in the forest above. The mold growing on some blades of grass. A rare species of bat nesting in the cave. John searched through my mind, only to find it exactly like his. The ghosts prepared to march on us, and suddenly, inexplicably, the network took control of me. My hands lit up with a murky, gelatin-like substance with a transparent, oily sheen. It lapped up in tongues. On contact with the strange substance, the ghosts melted. Eyes drooped down into their skulls. Their faces started to drip, and they turned to puddles that quickly evaporated. The army retreated.
We will give you a final chance.
My feet lifted off the floor. The opal fire lashed out at him. As soon as part of him would melt, it would regenerate. I felt a sharp pain in my skull and in my legs. I tried to resist his efforts to see into my mind. He was too powerful. I became rapidly overwhelmed. He started to pull me in, until Carlos, charging from the darkness, ran into him, wrapping his arms around him. I fell down to the ground as he lost concentration. The vines all around me at this point meander and retreat, as John focused his energy on this strange, renegade ghost. Had the master not taught him? As John prepared to kill Carlos, I seized my opportunity and switched into the tobacco language, pulling both of them with me. Both of them as projections of an unseen mind, rapidly combust. I'm alone in an empty hallway, a silent hallway. I can see John's hospital room, its door open. Scientists slump on the ground throughout the corridor, their minds dripping with ghosts that quickly evaporate as they near the tobacco language. Suddenly, unseen hands wrap themselves around me. I lift off the ground, paralyzed. A force unlike anything I can comprehend enters my brain and digs into it with sharp claws. I hear John's voice press in on me from every side. My arms move forward against my will. John pulls on my index finger, making it shoot with sharp pain. The bones inside slowly separate and grind against each other. I retreat into another level of reality, another version of the same hallway. John's powers stretch into it, sprouting from the ground in blue veins, and they wrap themselves around me.
You have the opportunity to become a god. A god in a world without death, without suffering, without starvation, without any laws but your own.
I start walking as the vines reach around me and lift me up once again. Outside, my middle finger starts to twist. Another level of reality. I'm closer to the hospital room. John loses focus on the object in the outer realm as he enters the second level of tobacco. The vines grow again from the ground in the inner world, repeating the process.
But when I kill you, and your soul begins to leave your body, we will make you our slave. You will serve us for eternity.
I dive into another level and continue walking, now only 5 feet from the door. The world I originated from now seems impossibly high above me. Pain shoots through my hands on multiple levels as the bones in my hands are crushed and my wrists pulled from their sockets. I can feel my veins wrapping tight around every limb. Pressure grows in my head.
You can't win. You can run in tobacco language all you want, Meagan. But you don't understand. You don't understand what he's taught me. He's taught me not to run, Meagan. He's taught me not to fight him.
The objects in the first level of reality no longer hover. John begins to lose the ability to pull at my hands as I drop into one level, and then another, and then another. His mind begins to burn with the growing feeling of tobacco. Outside, in the first level of the world, I fall to the ground and bolt towards the door, my hands and arms deeply bruised and aching. Wincing, I open the door and see John, sitting up in his hospital bed, a look of intense concentration spread across his face, in the levels upon levels of tobacco stretching below my feet. John tortures me. I'm aware of it across all dimensions, aching in every part of my body.
You think this hurts, Meagan? Wait until you've been through 10,000 years of it. Now listen. I'm telling you for the last time. You either join us or you
die.
My eyes met Ryan's. Suddenly, he felt an overwhelming nausea as time, memory, and all of the timelines through which his consciousness had wandered collapsed in on him, hitting him in waves that felt like automobile accidents, one by one. His stomach churned, and his mouth filled with a peppery burning. All of his nerves, one by one, lit up with overwhelming sensation and feeling as the timelines collapsed back into one another, swimming pools worth of lukewarm beer mixed with vomit, bile and blood gushed from the doors and windows of the downstairs of the house, running into the streets, making the people outside scream in terror. Inside of the house, and within the various buildings in the town, sheets of graph paper illustrated with glimpses of different realities flew through the air in a colossal blizzard as trillions and trillions and trillions of memories collapsed in on themselves. He stumbled from the desk, no longer able to think or feel anything but the horror of infinite time collapsing in on itself. Thousands of warring realities cascading into one another across a battlefield that still stretched on for millennia inside of his mind.
Ryan? Ryan, what the hell is going on?
Mom! I watched as he fell down the stair. I hadn't realized that I need to see this part.
So sorry. I'm so sorry.
What did you do to yourself? What's wrong? Baby, what's wrong?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Ryan! Talk to me. What did you do? Baby, baby, please. Don't go. Don't go now. This can't be. Hello? Hello? Yes? Yes, I know. I know you're getting calls about that. I know it's coming from my house. My son, I don't know. He looks like he took some drugs. I need to get him to the hospital. Please. Please. Oh, I don't know what drugs he would have taken. I don't know. There's beer cans everywhere and drawings of, I don't know. I don't know. Please. Thank you. Thank you.
Mom, just...
What?
Just let me go. Just let me go.
you unravel until there's nothing left. Every fool believes you have a chance to make a difference. I wouldn't change a thing. The world you had with this.